We're in the information age, but facts are in short supply. Reject the noise, ask bold questions, and seek the truth with FBI whistleblower and common sense extremist Steve Friend. This is the American Radicals Podcast.
It is the American Radicals Podcast. It's Friday, March 6th, 2026. Welcome to it. Today, we're going to be breaking down some things happening over at the Congress, which is not really interested in monitoring itself or feeling up the help. Also, they're not very interested in war powers. Also, we'll head on over to the Department of Justice, which still continues to claw back against the First Amendment and won't take any action on the Biden auto pen administration. The FBI went after a kid for his science fair project, and DHS ICE Barbie continues to be a problem for border hawks. So let's get after it. I've been playing with this idea in my head now for like a week or so. And maybe it's because we're in the early days of spring. If you happen to be in Florida, in the land of milk and honey, I know it's not officially March 21st, but I can wear flip flops and shorts outside. So I'm in a really good mood. But we're kind of at the furthest point away in the calendar from football season. And I don't know what it is. I just came across this idea of football in relation to the State of the Union address that happened actually a week ago. And look, full disclosure, I did not watch the president's speech at the State of the Union. I find it kind of off-putting, kind of monarchical. I just don't like it, but it is useful in one regard. Now, connected to football, it's a pep rally. It's a stump speech for an already elected official, somebody who gets to use the bully pulpit and kind of does it at taxpayer expense, which again is one of the reasons I don't like it very much. But it's a pep rally. Now let's look through it as a college football-esque type of situation. Let's take the big rivalry, right? Michigan versus Ohio State, the game. Well, let's say Michigan, they're 4-6 going into a game, right? If they're playing against some, podunk junior college team, the school's probably not going to throw a pep rally. They're not going to pack the big house. They might get some diehard fans there, but the casual viewer, not really interested. But when they're playing against their big rival, Ohio State, the game once a year, you can toss out the records. This is all that matters. The diehards will be here. The casual fans that tune in once a year because of the magnitude of this game. It just means so much to those people. So they have the big pep rally the night before, and that's when the team tries to convince the fans, the diehards, the casual fans, everybody in attendance, we need you tomorrow. You got to be there. You got to be at the game. You got to be on your feet. You got to be cheering loud. You have the opportunity to impact this game. Help us win. State of the Union. We are in a midterm year. The Trump administration, if you look at basically every single poll right now, is not really well liked. The Republicans, not really well liked. It looks pretty grim heading into November of this year. So this was their pep rally. It's a big game, midterms. It's going to ensure whether or not Donald Trump, who's a lame duck as a president, if he's going to be effectively a lame duck for the final 2 years, or if maybe he has a little bit of political capital, a little bit of wiggle room in the final 2 years. And that's going to depend on whether or not his party, the Republicans, win at the Senate, win at the House. Now, how do they make the case? Well, they're getting everybody hyped up. The president did a pretty good job. I saw the clips, the whole thing where he said, hey, stand up if you believe that your job here as an elected official in Congress is to prioritize the American people. And the Democrats sat down. I mean, it's kind of a viral moment. It's a really good move on him. But it's still a pep rally because if Michigan goes into the game tomorrow and everybody's amped up and the team takes the field and they get the football, and they don't pick up a first down, they go 3 and out. They punt it away. And then Ohio State takes the ball and proceeds to orchestrate a 12-play drive up and down the field. They don't even have to pass. They just run through them like they're made out of goose manure. They never face a third down, and they just put it in the end zone. 7-0, starting the game. Casual fans, they're turning the TV off. Diehards, they're going to sit on their hands. It's going to be really hard to bring them back. Now, analogy aside, what does that mean? Action. That's what's required. The pomp and circumstance, it only gets you so far, but the do matters. I think I heard that from somebody. I think it was the former co-deputy director of the FBI. I said the do matters. What are the do's in the final 8-9 months before people head to the polls? We're already having primary votes happening. Gosh, election season is forever. It never ends. What are the do's? You have a limited amount of time to do it. I think I can identify 3 particular areas. Government weaponization. Haven't seen anything. Haven't seen government gangsters locked up. The worst of the worst in handcuffs. Nothing to that effect. And the big one, illegal alien deportations, mass deportations. They haven't happened. You have a limited runway right now. The do matters. You need to take that football and go down and score on the opening drive. I'm not saying you're going to win the game. I'm saying you're going to keep your base, your fans attentive, responsive, and then they will have the ability to impact the game because they're going to be cheering loud. We got to see. And I don't think we're doing it. I think we've gone 3 and out. And we continue to be in the post State of the Union. Because what have we really gotten? What's the big story? War with Iran. And again, I'm not a foreign policy guy. I'm out of my depth. I think that the joke was out of the Reagan administration that he wanted a one-armed foreign policy advisor because they don't even know. They're saying, well, on the one hand, you could do this. And on the other hand, you could do this. Chop one of the hands off. Just tell me what I got to do. It's very complicated. I am not an expert. But what does dropping warheads on foreheads mean for the do? How does that play in Peoria? It doesn't. The warheads on foreheads, that's the flyover. Going to the game. We just had some Blue Angels fly over in perfect formation. Look at that American military might. Everybody's amped up. It's going to be great. If you still go 3 and out, people are sitting on their hands. People might leave the game early. Anybody watching on TV, just going to flip the channel. We've gotten a flyover. We haven't seen the team do anything on the field. You don't believe me? Let's get to some of the stories of the day and see exactly what the do is and what the not do has actually been. And we can start with the branch of government that is about to be on the ballot box. President's got his job. He's got his job all the way through January of 2029. But who doesn't? Well, that's the legislature. The House is up every 2 years, Senate every 6. It's a rotating. A third of the U.S. Senate will be up for re-election. So the first couple stories we have coming out of the Congress. This is from the Epoch Times. Senate rejects measure aimed at blocking Trump's Iran war operation. Because we have that pesky, dusty document that says that there's supposed to be a declaration of war from the Congress, and yet they're punking it out. They're not going to take it up. So there was a procedural vote in the Senate where Rand Paul was the co-sponsor, and it went 53-47 in favor of not doing anything because the U.S. Senate doesn't want to do anything. I believe that Rand Paul sided with the Democrats, but he swapped his vote with John Fetterman, who is a huge advocate for Israel. So he went and dropped over with the Republicans. So it wound up being the same 53-47 numerical split, even though you had a member of one party swap places with the other. And John Fetterman, as an aside, is a fellow Sinai Award winner with yours truly. I got that from Tablet Magazine a couple years ago. It went alphabetical, and it was John Fetterman, Steve Friend, and Ayan Hirsi Ali. One of these things is not like the others. But where's the do? They're not doing anything. They're just kind of sitting back. And despite what you might see on social media about the hype train and everybody pumping their fist, a lot of it's manufactured and artificial. Certainly, whatever you see on cable news, if you happen to watch Fox News, they are pumping their fist because Lockheed and Raytheon, those are some of their biggest commercial connections. Now, similarly, we have the House. So we'll move it to the lower chamber. This was a recent parliamentary vote procedure. The House tabled a resolution. I get it, it's nerdy, purposefully so. We are basically governed by kids who were part of student council growing up, who found a way to make themselves famous and relevant when they were just nerds who got wedgies on the school grounds. But they are in charge. So there was a recent House resolution that was tabled, which means we're not going to take it up. We're going to refer it to committee. Now, what are we talking about? I said there were the nerds in school who didn't have girlfriends. Well, now they got power. That's an aphrodisiac for some. And they keep trying to diddle the help up at Congress. So a resolution came out from Nancy Mace, and it's related to this guy Gonzalez. What's his name? Tony Gonzalez down in Texas. And we'll get to that in a second. But the Congress is going to refuse to take this up, and it's a vote on whether or not to be transparent about the U.S. Congress paying out sexual harassment complaints. Here is Representative from Florida, Paula Luna.
Luna.
All right. I support Representative Mace's subpoena here, as well as the amendment to it. And I just think it's really disgusting how this institution protects itself, because y'all just half of them voted to send this stuff to House Ethics, where you know it's going to die. We know that members of Congress are using taxpayer dollars to pay off sexual harassment. We just had a member of Congress literally sexually harass a woman that then lit herself on fire, and you guys all protected him. You guys all protected my own side, your side. And so if you guys want to talk about victims, if you want to go out and virtue signal, and then you guys are going to kill her stuff on the floor and then try to pass it, yeah, of course we should subpoena all of this stuff. But just, I'm not going to sit here and play games. I think it's a complete fraud. I think that's why the American people hate us. I think the midterms are coming up, and everyone should go on record for this. And I hope that members are exposed for this. I hope it goes back, I think, to the 70s, because it's wrong that it's happening. It's wrong that we cover up for it. It's wrong that we can't censure our own side because people are busy making deals because you guys don't want to censure your side. It's a deal that's been cut, and people hate us for it. So yeah, I support it.
Okay, so this Representative Paula Luna from Florida, I'm not her biggest fan, but I think she makes a pretty fair point there. And I will not even quibble when she said that we had a member literally sexually harassing someone. Well, I mean, typically I go after that. I'm pedantic when it comes to words and terms. We'll have some examples a little bit later. Really? Is it documented in literature, Representative Luna? Actually, it is. So let's go to a adjoining piece that I have. This comes from, what is it? 24site.news. And it's all about this guy, Tony Gonzalez. And no, actually, before we do, the vote on tabling the motion, the procedural stuff, it wasn't even close, guys. It was 357 to 65. That's a monkey stomping electorally. They don't want anybody to know exactly what's going on here. But Tony Gonzalez, he's the great example right now. The Republicans are afraid to lose this guy, this dirtbag, because their margins are so slim. How are we ever going to have Mike Johnson's initiatives and his agenda pushed through unless we hold on to some of the worst people around? But let's find out how he literally sexually harassed a staffer. Headline: texts from late staffer's phone show Representative Gonzalez made explicit sexual requests. See, he texted her because he's an idiot. These guys, as young as they are, and the times that we live, do not realize that digital evidence is forever. So this is a text message correspondence between Tony Gonzalez and his aide. Her name is Santos Aviles. Gonzalez asked her to send him a, quote, sexy pic because he was, quote, just such a visual person. She declined, said she didn't like to take pictures of herself. He then asked about her sexual preferences and her preferences for positions. Family-friendly show. I will brush over that quickly. The messages indicated that his paramour, Santos Aviles, repeatedly pushed back. Quote, "This is going too far, boss," she wrote. She also asked whether he had hired her because of her appearance, and he denied that allegation. And when Gonzalez pressed further with explicit sexual questions, she pushed back, saying she would never comply with his requests for some nudes. This dirtbag. We don't want to turn over information on him. How about the other 357? We were promised the due, right? That involved elected officials, appointed officials, the government gangsters that the director of the FBI likes to write about. He wrote a whole book about it. He made a whole movie about it. The due matters, right? And they continue to sit up there and obfuscate, use procedural tactics to hide exactly what is going on. The American people need to see this. When they don't, they say, you know what? You guys punked out. You punted the ball away because you were just so darn concerned for yourselves or for your buddies. We'll strike a deal. Stacey Plaskett, she's up there. She's a non-voting member, but she's, on the rise. She's on the come up for the Democrats. She's talking to Jeffrey Epstein. That's a bad look. But, we got Corey Mills. My friend Jill Savage did a whole series of stories about Corey Mills. Guy has stolen valor. He's getting married by a radical imam in a mosque in Virginia. He's maybe doing some weapons deals that are shady. He got an FBI agent to try to go after my friend Jill Savage, to try to get somebody recruited as a snitch to inform I'm a member of the press. And then the Republicans and the Democrats said, hey, you get yours, we get ours, and we'll just brush it under the rug. We're not going to censure either one of them. What sort of deals have been struck about this guy, Tony Gonzalez? There's always a deal. There's never any sort of legitimate transparency. There's never any accountability, I guess, unless you're George Santos. But then even he got his sentence commuted. Government gangsters in handcuffs. The due matters. You've gone 0 for 1. First down, 2nd and 10. Actually, I think you took a sack on first down. Now it's 2nd and long because government gangsters are going free. And you don't believe me? I got some more examples. So let's go to an oldie, a blast from the past, because we got an update to a story. Now, who remembers this whole thing where the predecessor to Donald Trump in the White House, in the Oval Office, was a human Roomba named Joe Biden? The auto pen administration, as I like to call it. Why do I call it that? Because he was an old, doddering, demented fool who had no awareness of what was going on. And members of his staff were very clearly using an auto pen to sign off on executive orders and pardons and what have you, every sort of thing coming out of the books. Now, we were promised some modicum of an investigation touching this. There was going to be a little bit of transparency. And then transparency then is supposed to be attached to accountability. We're supposed to see government gangsters in handcuffs. And I don't care if I don't know their name because there's some mid-level staffer. If a mid-level staffer has access to an auto pen with the president of the United States signature on it, they are effectively acting as the president. That's treason. So Donald Trump came into office and he issued this in June of last year. This is like, I don't know, it's an executive order or it's a presidential action or it's a memo. I don't know. They're government nerds. They come up with different stuff all the time. It reads, reviewing certain presidential actions. And he encourages an investigation of the auto pen administration. Well, there was another aspect to it too. It wasn't just the executive. James Comer, over at the House of Representatives, the Oversight Committee. James Comer, when he's not too busy promising to get to the bottom of things so he can use taxpayer dollars to fund his congressional hearings, which then give him the opportunity to go on Fox News and tell Sean Hannity that he's working on things. And then he takes all that information that you funded as a taxpayer and has a book ghostwritten that you can then buy the book from him and find out everything that you already funded for $29.99 in hardback. But the Oversight Committee releases a report, see, strongly worded letters, on the Biden auto pen presidency. A couple of bullet points from the Oversight Committee, which is supposed to be doing oversight. The President Biden, at the time, his inner circle, including top advisors and his physician, undertook coordinated efforts to mislead the public regarding his cognitive state. Senior Biden staff exercised presidential authority or facilitated executive actions without direct authorization from the president himself, including through misuse of the auto pen and failures in documenting decision-making processes. Now, how was the auto pen used? Specifically, remember he commuted the sentences of like 37 death row inmates? Do you think he reviewed the intricate details of every single case? No. They gave blanket pardons to everybody who had ever been arrested for a drug crime. Really? Everyone? That was appropriate? And then we had some pardons going out to Anthony Fauci, to Hunter Biden, Biden's sister, all these other corrupt people. All got the pardons. Joe Biden is not cognitively functioning. He's hardly ambulatory. He's currently dying of cancer. So aside from the actual cognitive decline, they withheld that from us as well. Might a treatment have impaired him cognitively? What if he was actually getting some sort of like experimental treatment? What if he was going through chemo? He was just distracted because he might die of cancer. All those things were withheld from us, and staffers used the auto pen. Well, one of the big things in the House Oversight Committee's report, the strongly worded letter, was a referral over to the Department of Justice. We recommend the Department of Justice investigate and bring forth appropriate criminal charges if, in fact, the evidence presents probable cause that crimes were committed. So we got an update from the Washington Post. And they tell us, no, I'm sorry, this is from the New York Times, at one point a newspaper. Headline, Justice Department under pressure from Trump fails to build an auto pen case against Biden. Shocker. Tip me over with a feather. No government gangsters will be held accountable. Now, from New York Times piece, just briefly, the auto pen investigation was led by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C., which could present some jurisdictional problems because Jeanine Pirro is there, and I know she says that she hates guns, and also the jury pools will not be sympathetic to President Trump's preferences there to bring charges against government gangsters. The inquiry was quietly shelved in recent months around the same time that prosecutors sought and failed to secure an indictment against 6 Democrat lawmakers. There were those Democrats in the House and the Senate that they published that video saying, hey, if you're in the military and you get an illegal order, then you should refuse that illegal order. And that, for some reason, was interpreted to be likely treasonous. No, that's just encouraging people to follow their oath of office. I don't know why the Department of Justice saw fit to go after them. Oh, actually, I do. Because they were never going to secure indictments. Same thing they were going to do here with the auto pen. They got those headlines. They got the fans the night before at the pep rally waving their pom-poms saying, we're going to win tomorrow. And then they went out on the field and laid an egg. And they knew it the entire time. This has just been like a giant game of Jenga, trying to keep this tower from toppling over entirely as long as we possibly can. And you're running out of pieces to pull out of the tower to put onto the top. People are losing patience. These are all government gangster things that you promised us. And we haven't even gotten into other examples of that, which aren't in the news stories today, but just like top of mind. Whatever happened to the fraud in Minnesota with the Somalis? Like, that was like a month and a half ago. We don't hear about it at all. Nothing. We had the Small Business Administration coming out and saying, we're standing up an investigation. For what? You want that to happen. Why? Because, government bennies. They benefit the people who are getting it, who become forever voters for you. They benefit the nonprofit or the NGO, whatever is recipient of the grants, because they just kick it back to your campaign, or they find a nice landing spot for you once you leave government. You can go to work for that nice nonprofit making $250,000. Easy. They benefit the Kelly Loefflers in charge of the Small Business Administration saying, I'm standing up an investigation. They benefit the James Comers of his next ghost-written book. We're going to have hearings to give them the opportunity to speak out and never deliver results. It's just slop. And they also benefit the government itself because they get to actually stand up a fake investigatory task force. So it's basically like a government jobs program. Nothing. The Minnesota Somali fraud is just, what are you talking about, Steve? Can't you focus on other things? We got to win the midterms. Wave your pom poms. We got James Comey indicted and then case dismissed. Letitia James indicted, then case dismissed. I guess we got John Bolton, former appointee of Donald Trump himself, and he doesn't look too nervous these days. We had further allegations of Minnesota officials, elected officials. Remember the Jacob Fry, Tim Walz, all these other people. They're colluding with each other to push back against ICE. Anything further on that? Have you checked a calendar? We've withdrawn entirely from Minneapolis. Tom Homan went out there and said, look, we got a few thousand, mission accomplished, even though there's 90,000 illegal aliens currently sitting in Minneapolis. We got nothing. We got nothing on cocaine in the White House. I guess the auto pen pardon for Hunter Biden's cocaine, just that went to effect. Nothing on the Dobbs leak, even though that's not illegal. That was the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe versus Wade. And we don't want to look into how John Roberts leaked it. Oops. Because government gangsters, they can't go to prison, right? We're having threats of Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, unless he comports with Donald Trump's preferences on interest rates. That's so nerdy that I don't even blame them for going after it, because it had something to do with like building renovations and some crock. Nothing on coronavirus. Nothing at all on coercing people to get an experimental gene juice in their arm. Or how about censorship that went on from the government and social media? Currently, right now, the Department of Justice is pushing back and fighting on turning over the amount of money that they sent to social media to generate censorship initiatives. This Department of Justice is fighting it. Government gangsters have not gone to prison. So I think that's a loss of yardage on first down, don't you? Well, how about weaponization? So let's go to now to the Washington Post. And we've talked about this story a couple of times, but we do have an update to it, and it relates to the federal government going after Hannah Nathanson. She's the Washington Post journalist. She's like from the left, the whistleblower whisperer. She has 1,200 sources at last reporting of people who don't like Donald Trump and have now reached out to Hannah Nathanson. And, they don't like him for obvious reasons. He's mean, orange, and literally Hitler. They're government gangsters, a lot of them, I'm sure. But if you're a journalist and someone brings you something that is classified and you did not ask them to do that, that's not a crime. We have precedent for it. It's called the Pentagon Papers. But because the government's very concerned about transparency and they want to hide things up, and then they want to justifiably go after people for leaking classified material, which is a violation of the law. They're allowed to do that. And federal agents raided Hannah Nathanson's house because her connection was a government employee who gave her sensitive classified material. And they seized her devices. They seized, I think, a Garmin watch, and then her phones, and then her laptop. And now there's been resistance and pushback through the courts. And the judge has weighed in here and said, look, I gave you the warrant, but I'm not going to allow the FBI and the Department of Justice to just peruse through this woman's phones and computers for whatever they want. It has to be very narrowly construed. I want this to be housed in the court. In fact, I'm not even going to review this material at an FBI facility in a sensitive compartment, a SCIF. I want it in a SCIF here at the court because I don't trust you. That seems kind of reasonable, right? We want to get away from weaponization. Weaponization was one of the biggest words in the 2022 midterm election, the 2024 presidential election, government weaponization. Remember, we had a whole subcommittee that yours truly got a chance to testify to with Jim Jordan, Jim spelled with a G, and then never heard from them again because the dude really doesn't matter. Where's the weaponization here? Well, the DOJ right now is appealing the judge's decision from the Washington Post. DOJ to appeal judge's order barring search of Post reporters' devices. Again, Hannah Nathanson. The government executed its search of her home, seized those devices. Now, the judge rejected the government's request to search through her unfettered access to these devices. Nathanson wrote in a declaration to the court last month that she typically receives dozens to upward of 100 tips from her sources every single day on Signal. And now that she's come under scrutiny, even though she's not officially under any sort of prosecution or even investigation at the hands of the Department of Justice and the FBI, she has zero. So now we've intruded on her First Amendment rights. She works with the First Amendment. She's a member of the press. The First Amendment is not just speech. It's not just religion. It's not just petition or assembly. It's freedom of the press. She works in the press. You've now inhibited her ability to exercise her First Amendment rights. And you're attempting to go forth with an illegal search and seizure. So I guess first, fourth, they both start with an F. Well, we can just say F that, right? And I guess F the whole effort to do back and pare back government weaponization. And that's not the only example that I have. And this is kind of like weaponization / retardation on behalf of my ex-girlfriend at the FBI. And, I'm not going to miss an opportunity to do that. This was passed over to me by my friend Emily Chappell. Shout out to her. She does a good job of sending me some good stuff. And she also likes to cut videos for me because I'm a Luddite who can't do it. So thanks, Emily, for this one. This is a story of a young man in California who came under FBI surveillance / investigation. And now the website is not cooperating with me. So it doesn't matter. I had it from the OC Register, Orange County. Here's the background for this. And let me see if you believe here on the American Radicals podcast. Hey, AMRADs, check us out, as always, on YouTube at AMRADPod, rumble.com/AMRADPod, and Spotify. Now one channel housed there, AMRADPod. California family says that a home lab belonging to a teen trying to cure cancer was misread by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So actually, I have another link. Let's see if this one works. It's from The Hill. It's garbage. It looks ugly, but we'll do what we can with it. All right. No, we're not going to do it because technology, again, I'm a Luddite. It's not working. Here's the background, and here's what's going on. The FBI and Orange County Fire Authority and California National Guard Weapons of Mass Destruction and Civil Support Team went to this property to investigate this kid. He's 17. Apparently, it's a rental property. The landlord came in to do some sort of work and then saw like a chemistry lab and got nervous because the family's Muslim. So welcome back to 2001, 2002, right? So see something, say something. I guess this kid had some sort of chemistry lab that was set up with some Bunsen burners, notify the authorities, and the FBI went to work for now over a week. They've been going to the house in full hazmat suits, walking in, walking out, taking things. Now, the family has retained an attorney. What's that attorney telling us? Well, apparently, he's about to finish college. He's 17. He's basically Doogie Howser. He's a genius. He has his own YouTube channel, kind of like us here at AMRADPod, where he does chemistry experiments. He wants to become a doctor and cure cancer. Kid is just a nerd. He has a chemistry lab that maybe his channel is monetized, maybe it's not. Maybe he just likes to share information. And the FBI is investigating this guy. Now, it reminds me a little bit of that, what was his name? Was it Ahmed or Ahmed, who was the clock boy during the Biden administration or the Obama administration? Gosh, that was a long time ago. And I went and found it because why not? This is a fun one. Who remembers this kid? He reconstructed a digital clock, allegedly, and he put it in a suitcase and then brought it to school to impress his teacher. Come on, we know what he was doing. He was a Muslim kid, and he was trying to freak everybody out to make him think that he had some sort of a bomb with him. But then, because Barack Obama was really looking to pit the American people against each other along racial lines, he invited the kid to come to the White House, and they made sure the kid wore some silly NASA t-shirt and say, oh, no, I'm just like really into tech. Well, that's what it kind of reminded me of. It also reminded me of an experience that I had when I was back with the FBI. And how things should be handled versus how they're handled here. Again, they've been investigating this for over a week. From the evidence that I see from multiple sources, it looks like this is just a really smart kid, and the landlord freaked out and saw something and said something pretty inappropriately. But I remember when I first came to Florida, the land of milk and honey, and we got a call over from the Department of State. It was from their Diplomatic Security Service. Your government's really big. One of the things that the Department of State Diplomatic Security Service investigates is passport fraud. And they said, hey, we are investigating a passport fraud. We are at the subject's house. We've gone into the subject's house and we see drug paraphernalia. We see potential bomb making material like wires showing. And we see Nazi decor. This is terrorism. You need to come and investigate. So we sped on over to this house and come to find out, and this is how things work in the government. They only spin one way, up. Nobody ever de-escalates unless, of course, you have a modicum of common sense, extreme common sense. Come to find out, the passport fraud is because there's a divorced couple. Mom has custody. She wants to go to Europe this summer with the boy. And dad doesn't want that. He doesn't want to lose his son over the summer. So he has not approved a passport for his high school age son to go to Europe for the summer. Mom says, F that. I hate my ex. I'm going to forge his signature. And then they get into basically a domestic altercation over it. He reports it to the federal government on his ex-wife. They go to investigate. They walk into the house and they smell the aroma of marijuana and they see a bowl that might have marijuana residue in it. Now you've got passport fraud and drugs. They then go into the kid's room and they see that he has all these wires and electronics hanging out. Come to find out, this kid is like our 17-year-old in California. We actually interviewed him. He's a tech whiz genius who builds his own computers. He wound up building a computer that he could operate with his toes so he could get it to talk to you just with like toe clicks. Then they went to his closet and they find the Nazi stuff because he's doing a school project on World War II and his grandmother was some sort of immigrant from Europe, which would explain why the family wanted to go visit Europe. And she had retained authentic Nazi clothing and apparel that he was going to bring as part of his school project to show it. Kid was like genius. And we spun it up. We didn't investigate him for a week, though. We got it done in like an hour and a half. Weaponization of government, right? And some retardation. All right. The last subject, we're 0 for 2 now, right? No government gangsters, no weaponization addressed. Here's a perhaps government gangster-esque who's connected to the mass deportations that we haven't seen in the form of ICE Barbie. So this is an opinion piece, and it's definitely of the political left because it comes from the Washington Post, because democracy dies in darkness. Headline: Kristi Noem is a nightmare for immigration hawks. But there's a couple of facts in here, and then I have an adjoining piece. In the latest Harvard-Harris poll, deporting immigrants who are here illegally and have committed crimes is Trump's second most popular issue, 75%. But only 39%, according to a Reuters poll, support the tactics of ICE. And here's a quote from this guy. His name is Andrew Arthur. Most Americans favor immigration enforcement. They just don't want to see or hear much about it. That's quite a conundrum for politicians like Kristi Noem, who, from her flashy outfits to her multi-million-dollar ad campaign, clearly love the spotlight. So Americans want the deportations. They just won't want to see it. That's downstream of having a government that's way too big. I pay my taxes. I don't want to be bothered with it. I think the government should shovel my snow like they do in New York City, right? I also think that not liking the tactics, only 39% approve. I don't like ICE's tactics. I disapprove entirely. They're way, way not aggressive enough. They're too timid. Trail of Tears down to the border. 18-year-old atop a Humvee, no longer with the 50 cal, as we learned yesterday. I want lasers, threatening individuals who are here illegally from coming back. They're way too timid. So I would be in the disapprove category. So take it with a grain of salt with the actual statistics and the actual polls there. But Kristi Noem loves herself some limelight. She probably viewed this as an opportunity to elevate herself. I think she probably wanted to be selected as vice president. Didn't happen. She's got ambitions of running for president in 2028 because Donald Trump is term limited. Hey, American people, biggest thing, mass deportations. You're going to put me in charge of the Department of Homeland Security? That's an inside track to run for president. And then she's done a hype campaign for herself. And that's included some pretty corrupt things that are going on. Apparently, she has arranged for over $200 million of your money to be spent on an ad campaign. And a lot of it gets funneled to her friends in government. It's completely legal, but completely corrupt. Kind of like the way that Congress is voting to table some sort of resolution to be transparent with the American people. Not illegal, totally corrupt. So she's done some kickback to some of her friends. And also this ad campaign has featured her dressed up, all bedazzled, wearing a cowboy hat, riding a horse at Mount Rushmore, right? What is the purpose, though? How are you justifying this? So our adjoining piece actually comes from National Review, and it is an exclusive, according to them. Trump considers Mullen as a replacement for Noem, privately furious over her Senate testimony. She got grilled a couple days ago in front of the U.S. Senate by both sides. So during her hearing, members of Congress pressed Kristi Noem about this contract approval for $220 million ad campaign. So pressed for comment, a spokesperson from Department of Homeland Security said the following. The ads were, quote, hyper-targeted international ad campaign in question, ran in 8 countries, reached 46 million people, and played a major role in helping to secure the southern border. They're actually going to say that commercials are stopping the illegal alien invasion, not just border enforcement. And I'm a numbers guy. I just am. You spent $220 million to reach 46 million people. That's $5 per person. And not all of them are going to try to run across the border. $5? Really? It costs $8 million to run a Super Bowl ad. And that would reach, I think, when I checked it, I pulled it up, 126 million people. That's like 6 cents a person. Why didn't you just run ads during the Super Bowl? That's around the world, right? You're probably going to reach more people that way. So it's clearly not on the up and up. That's a government gangster move. Now, weaponization, nope. Illegal alien deportation, that's a big no. Haven't seen it at all. Government gangsters, nope. 3 and out, punt it away. People are sitting on their hands. The diehards even can't really get activated. The casual fan, for sure, looking at his watch, thinking, maybe we should beat traffic and head out of the stadium, if they happen to even be there. If they're watching on TV, they'll flip on and see if there's another game. Maybe they'll just watch something entirely different. They'll turn on professional wrestling, way better K-fob. Now, got a couple of other pieces I want to talk about because here are some examples of how the do matters. One from the communist left and one from the conservative right. Perhaps these would be really good examples for the current administration to take under advisement. So first, the political left, the communists, and one of the government gangsters who has not been held accountable, and that is the New York Attorney General, one Letitia James. So from ABC News, New York Attorney General demands hospital resume gender-affirming treatment for trans youth. Now, language, guys, I'm not just pedantic about the word literally. Gender-affirming treatment, that means we're going to affirm the gender that Harry says he is, and Harry says he's a Sally. So gender-affirming treatment would be cutting off his penis and testicles or the healthy breast tissue of Sally because she says she's a Harry. Definitely not conversion therapy, which is the exact opposite. So one of the New York City's largest hospitals, it's NYU Langone, announced last month that it is going to phase out certain gender-affirming treatments for patients under the age of 19 because of current regulatory environment. The move comes weeks after the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced a proposal to cut federal Medicaid and Medicare funding to hospitals that provide gender-affirming care to minors. So the feds came in and said, we're not going to give you that sweet, sweet government cash if you cut off healthy breast tissue from children, or if you cut off a healthy penis and testicles from children. You're not getting Medicare and Medicaid. And the hospitals were like, we need that sweet, sweet government cash. Okay, we will comply and comport. Not good enough for the communists because the do matters. So now the state attorney general, Letitia James, is going to use the power at her disposal and threaten this hospital, saying that they're discriminating. And have you looked down? Today is March 6th. This came out like 2 days ago. They have until March 11th to comply, or she's going to go after them. So now she's got them in a vice. Do they risk losing out on Medicare and Medicaid funding, or do they risk the state of New York coming after them for probably an equal amount of loss? They're just going to have to do an economic evaluation. What do you want to bet that the odds are the Letitia James loss is going to be worse? Because that's what communists do. They get into positions of power through either appointment or, in her case, Letitia James, she won an election to get elected to do something. And the communists want to take away healthy breast tissue and penises and testicles from children. That's what they want. So she's going to deliver on it, and she'll be rewarded for it. The fans in the stands, they're going to pack the house in New York. That's ceded territory. That's a communist enclave. Now, let's go to the political right. And kind of as a palate cleanse story, I do have a nice palate cleanse for us, though, to finish us out. Here's where the do matters. So I got this from the New York Times. Headline reads, man charged with murder appears to win primary for county sheriff. Yep, out of Arkansas. So the guy here, his name is Aaron Spencer. He faces a second-degree murder charge in the fatal shooting of a man accused of sexually assaulting his daughter. So apparently, a 67-year-old man sexually assaulted Aaron's daughter. He was arrested, charged with 43 felonies, and he bonded out. I don't know how. I don't know how in Arkansas you allowed this guy to bond out of prison, but he did. He bonded out. They're sure there were some sort of conditions, home confinement, whatever. A couple weeks later, Aaron's daughter goes missing. He searches. He finds her in the company of the 67-year-old man attempting to run away with her. So he does what every red-blooded American does. The do matters. And he kills this guy. I don't care. We're just getting to the end faster than it should have been. It should have been in a lake of fire or a wood chipper. It doesn't matter to me. I'd have voted for this guy. He runs for sheriff. He wins the primary. He is now poised to become the sheriff who's in charge of investigating himself. And the charges, I'm sure, will be dropped. The do matters. He was rewarded. The do matters. If you want to be rewarded, if you want the fans to come out tomorrow, not just cheer and just check out right away because you went 3 and out, punted it away, and gave up an opening 12-play drive to your biggest rival, and now you're down, and we know you're not even going to try. If you want us engaged, the do matters. The 3 categories: weaponization, illegal alien mass deportation, and government gangsters. It's all got to happen. You have a limited runway to deliver. And if you don't deliver, I'm just going to change the channel. Professional wrestling. It's streaming on Netflix. I can watch it anytime I want. All right, guys. That's going to wrap us up for the week here on the American Radicals podcast. It is a Friday after all. Congratulations. You made it through that entire grind. But I do have a nice palate cleanse. And again, on the do mattering, here's a nice video of a trucker, a moving company who did what law enforcement likes to do, and that's get a bad guy.
Oh my God, that's her.
Yeah. Is it really?
Yep, that's her. It looks like her.
Security guard took a picture of her, and he's like looking at her. And in the thing, it said the lady's wearing like pink pants.
The Amber Alert that went out yesterday?
Remember yesterday that
Yeah.
one?
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Should I block the truck?
Huh?
Should I block them?
Should block. Let me write it down.
Texas plate.
Texas plate. What is it?
Is she a young girl?
You can't look it up of what she looks like?
Yes, I can. It's right here.
Got it?
Show me a picture, because I know what that girl looks like. She ran right past me.
Okay, hold on.
Oh my god, that's her. Yeah?
Is it really?
Yep, that's her. It looks like her. That's exactly what she looks like.
Moving truck boxed her in until law enforcement got there and they saved a 3-year-old girl who was being kidnapped. That's awesome. All right, guys. We will plan to be back with you Monday, noontime Eastern, as always, here, rumble.com/amradpod, YouTube at amradpod. And you always check out the replay over at Spotify, amradpod. And until then, have a great weekend.
You've been listening to the American Radicals Podcast. Find us on YouTube, Rumble, and X at AmRadPod.